Depending on where you are in the world, different countries will all have different versions of the world map. Take the Israel and Palestine borders, for example, one of the most fought-over border disputes in the world. Just about any map you look at in the United States or Israel shows this area of land, known as the Golan Heights, as belonging to Israel. The only thing is, Israel and the United States are the only two countries in the world that recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli land. Every other country, all 193 of them, recognizes the Golan Heights as belonging to Syria, but acknowledges that the land is being held under Israeli military occupation. In fact, this is the case for many countries in border disputes around the world, where what you're seeing in American textbooks isn't necessarily true for other countries. Take the area of land known as Crimea, for example. Most Americans consider this peninsula sticking out into the Black Sea as Ukraine, when this isn't the reality for many other countries. 7 countries, including Russia, recognize Crimea as fully belonging to Russia, and 18 other countries voted against the United Nations resolution that granted Crimea as official land of Ukraine. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Crimea was given to Ukraine. There were many Russians living in Crimea that weren't thrilled about being governed under Ukraine and felt they more closely aligned with Russian culture. As a result of this, Crimea was granted autonomy under Ukraine, where they could have their own parliament and constitution. In 2014, Russia was going through a financial crisis, and their leadership was losing support from the Russian citizens. The Russian leadership wanted to make a move to win back support and decided to invade Crimea and annex the land. Russia has military control over Crimea today and serves as an extremely important military port with its direct access to the Black Sea. This annexation has not been recognized by the United States, Ukraine, or the rest of the European Union, which leaves many maps showing Crimea as still belonging to Ukraine. The next region that doesn't always look the same from map to map is the Jammu and Kashmir region in Asia. This region is especially tricky to navigate, considering 3 different countries all believe the land is theirs. The Jammu and Kashmir region is divided between China, India, and Pakistan, where each country believes they are entitled to more land in this region than what's actually sectioned off for them. The most widely accepted international position is that India controls the Jammu division and the Kashmir Valley as of 2019. Pakistan administers this area of land known as Azad Jammu and Kashmir, as well as the Gilgit-Baltistan region. Finally, China controls this region of land known as Aksai Chin in the northeast section of Jammu Kashmir. Although this is the internationally accepted division of the land, each of these 3 countries see it differently. India claims this entire region as theirs based on a charter that was signed back in 1947. Pakistan believes much of this region is theirs based on the Muslim majority population in this region, and China claims ownership over the more remote regions of this land, specifically Aksai Chin and the Shaksagam Valley. Another region China and India can't agree on is further east and is known as the Arunachal Pradesh region. Similar to the Jammu and Kashmir region, most of the international community recognizes that the vast majority of Arunachal Pradesh belongs to India, while China and its allies largely disagree. China refers to Arunachal Pradesh as either Zhangnan or South Tibet and claims this as part of the Tibet Autonomous Region. The United States and many other allies of India have come forth in 2024, confirming the recognition of Arunachal Pradesh belonging to India, to which China has strongly condemned. This region has actually proved to be violent in recent years, where an escalation in 2020 left 20 Indian soldiers and 4 Chinese soldiers deceased. Another region that the United States is in hot water with over China is the extremely important island in the South China Sea known as Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party points to history to claim their ownership over Taiwan. In fact, every country, except for 12, recognize Taiwan as being one of China's territories. The Taiwanese people don't see it this way and have looked to the United States for help in their self-defense. The United States is a strong supporter of Taiwan's independence, mainly because of the extremely profitable semiconductor industry dominated by Taiwan. Semiconductors go into everything from the device you may be watching this video on to a Boeing 737. Without Taiwan's semiconductors, the United States and many other countries would fall apart, considering these countries haven't gotten to the point where they can be semiconductor independent yet. China and most of the world sees Taiwan and these small islands in the South China Sea as just other territories of China, while the people in these regions see themselves as independent from the Chinese Communist Party and would like to stay that way. Also in this region, there's an ongoing dispute over what this body of water is called. China claims this entire body of water to be known as the South China Sea, where the Philippines and many of its allies include this region that's 200 miles or 370 kilometers from Philippines coast to be known as the West Philippine Sea. Unlike the situation with Taiwan, where many other countries back China for this body of water, China is the only country that considers this entire region to be known as the South China Sea. Meanwhile, the Philippines are only claiming a portion of the South China Sea, which includes part of an archipelago known as the Spratly Islands. Within the Spratly Islands, a section of the islands known as the Kalayaan Island Group is what the Philippines claims dominance over, while China claims dominance over the entire Spratly Island chain and more. Another body of water that's different from map to map is the body of water up here between Japan and South Korea. Japan argues that this body of water should be known as the Sea of Japan, while South Korea refers to this body of water as the East Sea. South Korea's argument for the East Sea is that this reflects the body of water's geographical location to the east of the Korean peninsula. Japan's argument is that this body of water is only separated from the Pacific Ocean by Japan and should therefore be known as the Sea of Japan. Other objections to the East Sea include that this name is confusing, with the East China Sea already being just to the south. Vietnam also already calls the South China Sea the East Sea, just to make things even more confusing. While the disputes over these bodies of water have remained mostly peaceful, a border dispute that definitely hasn't been peaceful is the land divided between North and South Korea. Starting with South Korea, the maps in this country typically show the land of North Korea being just a bunch of illegally occupied provinces. South Korea doesn't recognize North Korea as its own country, but they also recognize that they don't have any control over the land. On the other hand, North Korean maps, for obvious reasons, are much harder to find. A very small percentage of the North Korean population is actually educated on what the rest of the world looks like, and the ones that are educated definitely have a flawed perception of the world map. Some of the only maps that have ever been seen in North Korea show North Korea also having control over what most of the world maps knows as South Korea. These maps also show North Korea as being in the center of the map, playing into the idea that North Korea is the most powerful and dominant country in the world. However, many North Koreans don't even have access to these kinds of maps, and are often told that North Korean land expands much further than what reality shows. Another instance of a not-so-peaceful border dispute is the Morocco and Western Sahara border. The official position of Morocco is that Western Sahara is an integral part of their kingdom, and the government only refers to this region as either Moroccan Sahara, the Saharan provinces, or the Southern provinces. There's only two other countries in the world that support this position, which are the United States and Israel. The rest of the United Nations and global superpowers consider Western Sahara a non-self-governing territory. This is much different from Morocco, the United States, and Israel's view, in that Western Sahara is widely recognized as an independent state and separate from Moroccan rule. Because this border is heavily disputed, travel to this region and even the state of the Western Sahara is not very safe. A region that definitely isn't safe to travel to in 2024 or any time in the near future for that matter is the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Depending on who you ask, this region either belongs to Azerbaijan, Armenia, or is even its own independent state. In fact, there's been ongoing battles in this region in the past few years, where tens of thousands of Armenians have had to flee this region in search of a new home back in the Armenian mainland. The craziest part is, the media hardly ever covers any news in this region, despite how hostile and intense this border dispute is. You can find out why that is, and why these two countries are fighting over this land in the first place, in this video right here.